Matt, before we look ahead to Saturday's game against Hartlepool, how has the week been for you and for the squad in training?
Busy week, lads have trained well. Good week's prep going into the weekend. Obviously, the players on a bit of a high on the back of the performance and result last weekend at Walsall. So 2 wins on the bounce, a couple of clean sheets in there. So the lads have trained well and with a spring in a step this week. But as always, it comes down to performance at the weekend. That's something we're looking to replicate on the last couple of weeks.
How is the squad looking? Obviously, unfortunate to lose Zanzala so early on last weekend. What's the early prognosis weekend?
Look, it looks like he requires an operation. He's seen a specialist in the morning in relation to what that operation holds, I suppose, and the timeframes within it as well. So I've not got all the answers in relation to Ozzy's injury. It's a shame because obviously he started his career with ourselves so well the week earlier. But to get the injury in the manner he did, almost not under any contact, bit of a freak injury, but it does look like it requires surgery. The extent of that surgery is still unknown at this moment in time. The specialist will go through the scans and feedback anything tomorrow, so we might have a better idea in terms of timescales in the next 24, 48 hours, but obviously it means he's unavailable for the immediate future, and it puts a little bit more pressure on us in terms of the transfer market.
How frustrating is it? A player that you've brought in, he'd started so well, he'd made that connection with the players and the fans, and then you're almost back to where we were before he signed.
Yeah, look, it's not ideal, but that's professional sport. Players get injured. Like I say, you can never predict it, and I suppose it hurts a little bit more because he's only just come to the football club, and we were so looking forward to continuing working with him. We saw enough on his debut to feel there was something there for us to work with and something to enjoy working with, and a really big influence and contributor to good team performances. So shame for Ozzy first and foremost. Hopefully he's not been too down this week. He's trying to stay upbeat. He'll get more information tomorrow, like we all will. And then we'll address it accordingly. So, it's a shame because as a manager, you start shaping your team towards what you hope it will be. But the side issue, I suppose, is it puts more pressure on our attacking unit. Ozzy was brought in to offload some of that pressure. It puts pressure on the personnel who are training and playing week in, week out, but also the ones coming back from injury. So we've got to be mindful of what we need in the next few days.
You touched in your previous answer about obviously the transfer window closes on Monday. You'll be keen to be adding to the squad where you can. In terms of players leaving Exeter City, there's always someone after our players. Do you expect any movement outwards?
Not really, no. There's been nothing significant since the start of the window. As always, there's phone calls, there's interest, but there's nothing we're taking any notice of at the moment in terms of fees coming in for our players, and those players are in demand. So we expect this squad to not be weakened in terms of players going out. You never say never because you never quite know what's going to happen in the last couple of days of a transfer window, certainly in January, but we don't expect that to happen. All our focus now is on working with this squad we've currently got and getting the players back up to full fitness who are coming back from injury, and trying our best to add 1 or 2 more players.
On to the matter in hand then with Hartlepool. I think you said you'd watched their game against Charlton on Tuesday night. They're certainly going to be still on a high note after that win.
Yeah, and they deserved it as well. They deserved to win the game in normal time. Played fantastically well. Took the game to penalties and got through on penalties. Probably shows where they've been this season. Fantastic home form. We went there early on in the season and they were in such a good run of form at home at that time, and we managed to get a draw, but such a difficult place to go and play. Good cut runs in amongst there, and they'll be looking to improve their away form. But there's no reason why they can't do that, and hopefully they won't start doing that this weekend. We've got to put in a performance which gets them on the back foot and almost stops their style to a certain extent. There's lots of players within their squad and lots of structures we quite like and admire in terms of Hartlepool and the way they go about things. But we're at home, so the onus is certainly on us to dictate the style of play and dictate the pace of the game as well, and really put the opposition under significant pressure. So that's what we'll be looking to do. It certainly feels like a game where if we can back up the last couple of weeks, we'll have put ourselves in a stronger position than we were at the start of the year.
And obviously those 2 wins that we've had in the last couple of weeks, they've obviously been really pleasing for us all to watch. I think probably disappointed with only 2-0 at Walsall. They've certainly started to find their way out of the rut that we had at the start of the year.
Yeah, let's be honest. This calendar year we performed well. We had a difficult December, no denying that. But this calendar year, we've been performing well. Even the Sutton game and the Forest Green game, which I spoke about, I was pleased with those performances, and the defeat against Portsmouth as well. So, performances usually end up in a good points return as well. And we've added to that in terms of 2 relatively convincing wins the last couple of weeks. But those games have gone our way. We've scored at the right time. We've had a little bit of luck along the way, and we'll certainly need that again this weekend. But also, there seems to be a bit of a good feel around the place. Some players have returned to a bit more form, better rhythm in the game, and a bit more confidence to them as well. People forget we've still got a lot of young players who thrive off success and thrive off positive performances. And when it's not going so well, then sometimes they can find themselves in a difficult position. But everyone seems in a good place at the moment. They need to maintain that. But this league doesn't really care about reputations, doesn't care about form, doesn't care about away form or home form. So we know what we've got to produce on Saturday to give ourselves a good chance.
Before we finish, a couple of off matters away from the first team. A good win for the youngsters at Axminster last night in the Devon County Cup.
Yeah, it's important they keep getting that exposure. Certainly for the ones who aren't out on loan, getting exposure to men's football in the non-league scene. The Devon Bowl's an important competition because it's the first time some of those kids will have got to play against men, probably on a difficult surface, probably in front of a bit of a crowd there as well. Was there 500 people there last night, or something similar to that number? So a different experience. I'm great that they've come through it. They've come through it unscathed in terms of physically, but also in terms of result, and it gives them another opportunity now to keep progressing in that cup competition.
And finally, we'll end then. Exeter City Women have been breaking all sorts of records this season, and for the first time in 20 years, they're in the 4th round of the FA Cup on Sunday. It's a huge moment for the club to be proud of, and we obviously wish them all the very best against West Brom.
Yeah, they go to West Brom this weekend. We obviously wish them all the best in relation to that, and it's a great achievement already. They seem to have, like you said, a record-breaking season, and the season's only halfway through. So hopefully, there's a lot more success to come. And it's a big game for themselves and for the football club as well. So we certainly wish them well in relation to that. And it's great to see other aspects away from the first team progressing. You mentioned the young lads on Wednesday night and the women's team as well. That club feel keeps on bringing that feel-good factor to the town and to the city, really, and to the community as well. So hopefully they go with a little bit of support. They certainly go there with our support, and fingers crossed they get a positive result.